How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final genocide. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
I would never start a stream without unmuting my microphone. That would never happen. As you guys know, I'm a professional streamer on the internet. I would never, ever, ever start a stream without unmuting my microphone. Would never happen. Hey, guys, we're back. We're back for more spy streaming. Who's ready for more spy streaming? If you were expecting me to go live at 5 p.m., I understand why you were expecting that, because normally I do go live at 5 p.m. every day. However, today's a weird day. There's some spy streaming going on. We're going to be doing 2 back-to-back spy streams tonight. And you might say, Karlyn, you usually only do spy streams as supporter exclusives, and they're usually not public on the internet. And that is true. That is true. Most of the time when I do spy streaming, it is a supporter exclusive, because it's just easier that way. It's easier, gives a benefit to supporters. It gets you access to cool information. And I do love my supporter exclusives. You know that. However, last week, we did 4 straight days of supporter exclusive spy streams. And so that really cut down on my public streaming time. And you know what? I decided, because we did 4 straight days, full days of spy streaming, I decided to toss everyone a bone and make today's spy streams public. Now, don't get used to this. There's a lot of spy streams coming up, and for the most part, they will be supporter exclusives. So you have to get a YouTube channel membership or a Substack membership or membership on Locals, Patreon, Twitter, whatever platform you want to support on is fine. I prefer Substack myself, but if you want to support on YouTube, that's cool, man. That's cool. Or another platform, that's totally fine. But as long as you are a member in one of those places, you will get access to spy streams. And because of that, we do like to gift out channel memberships on this channel. We have Cynthia in with a W, gifting out 5 channel memberships before the stream even started. Thank you, Cynthia. We got Anthony in with a W, gifting out a channel membership. Thank you, Anthony. We've got Fishing, gifting out a channel membership. Thank you, Fishing. I'm going to add that to the channel memberships that were gifted in earlier today, and we already have 40 memberships given out today. Now, guys, I would love to. Oh, wait, I got a super chat too. I got a super chat. Hey, KK, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, I would love to get to 100 channel memberships given out today. Can we do that? Think of it as like, if you've ever gotten gifted a channel membership, pay it forward. Gift out a channel membership, gift out 2 channel memberships, gift out 5 channel memberships, gift out 10, 20, 50, however many you want to gift out. Literally, if every single person watching the stream right now just gave 1 channel membership to another person, we would already have met the goal. And that's it. Because, guys, I'm 100% independently funded by people like you. I cannot do this unless you allow me to do it. We got Old Sub in. Old Sub, thank you, bro. What a fucking legend. 10 channel memberships, massive W, bro. Everyone give Old Sub W's in the chat. As a reminder, guys, when people gift out channel memberships, we give them W's in the chat because they're not only funding my work, they're also helping and supporting you guys and gifting out channel memberships to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to get them. That brings us halfway to our goal today. And be rad if we could get through that. So, oh, wait, we have Cynthia! Guys, Old Sub and Cynthia cannot carry the water for everyone, okay? Please, everyone contribute. My God, W's to Cynthia. I feel guilty at a certain point taking so many memberships from Old Sub and Cynthia, although I do love them and appreciate them. And I cannot say that enough. But thank you, Cynthia, with another dub. Now everyone else has to get us all the way to 100, okay? Old Sub and Cynthia have done enough. Everyone else has to get us to 100. Them's the rules. I'm laying down the law. More people have to contribute besides the standard people. If you guys want this to continue, if you don't want it to continue, I could go do other things. I really can. And God knows, in the last several days, I've been strongly thinking about, is it time to go do other things? I really have been thinking about that because, like, we've got a couple of minutes before we get into the spy stream, so I'm just letting people kind of file in. It's not that I want to give up on the left. It's not that I want to do that. Hans would never let me give up. Hans would never let me quit. W's to Hans. Thank you for the 10 channel memberships. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying I'm going to quit covering the left. That's never going to happen. This is a personal obsession for me. It's an intellectual curiosity for me. I'm never going to give up covering the left. But I got to tell you guys, like, one of the things, and I talked a bit about this a little bit, maybe a week or two ago, about losing weight, is that for me, it's also losing kind of like, I know this sounds weird, it's losing spiritual protection. So, like, when you have more weight, you have more padding, you have more protection from, like, energies that are coming at you. And I got to tell you guys, like, it has been just, like, a fascinating process for me to lose weight, as quickly as I did being on the internet publicly, because I am so much more sensitive to bullshit right now. You guys are like, Karlyn, you were always sensitive. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, but like, the sensitivity I have to bullshit and toxicity right now is, like, at an all-time high. And I gotta tell you guys, like, there was something that happened over the weekend that was a stupid thing, and I'm not gonna say what it is yet. There was something that happened over the weekend that was just, like, a stupid fucking thing. It was a really stupid thing. But it like, hit me in a way that I'm like, you know what? Everyone on the internet is fucking toxic. No, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm not talking about people in the audience. I'm talking about, like, content creators, streamers. And it's like, I got like hit in the face with the fact that, like, this is not, like, actually the world I want to be in. Like, I don't want to be a content creator on the internet. Like, I truly don't. And I know, like, that seems weird because I've been a content creator for so long. Oh, Reagan knows exactly what's fucking going on. Reagan, touche, Reagan, touche. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And that's all I'm going to say about that for right now, because it was a very stupid thing. It was just stupid. But it's almost not even the point of what it was. It's like, I fucking hate content creators. I actually hate them. And the thing of it is, none of them are real. None of them are authentic. I came from a world before this where I was in a world where I was actually able to just, like, communicate with people on, like, a human level. And I've come to understand that there's, like, literally not a single person creating content in this space that I'm in that I can have any sort of human relationship with. And by human relationship, I don't even mean anything scandalous. I mean just, like, a normal, like, hey, here's about me and here's what I'm interested in and here's what I think of the world and here's how I view things, and there being like normal fucking conversation. I came from a world before this where I was in like spiritualist communities, and I was, doing all these retreats and meditation and like all this shit, and I miss it so fucking much. I miss it so fucking much. And I'm just talking to kind of kill time as people file into the stream. I'm not going to say anything specifically about the highly spiritualized individual who is pretending he's not a highly spiritualized individual on the other side of the internet. I'm not going to say anything more about that. But like, I just had realizations over the last couple of days. I'm like, I need to do something to start engaging with different types of people that are not on the fucking internet, that are not doing this content creation stuff. I need to get back into like the spiritual like stuff that I used to do, because I can't. The types of relationships that I like to have with people are real, they're genuine, they're grounded in some sort of like fucking truth and authenticity. And it's just become like so clear to me that there's like no one that does this content shit on the internet that's even capable of that, because it's all just about pretense and bullshit. And I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that. I'm kind of just like rambling. Even people that I really like on the internet, even people that I actually do like really like on like a personal level. Like I look at someone like Amalek, and like I like Amalek. I like him. I think he's like really interesting. I think he's really smart. Even in that, and no offense, Amalek, even in that, I know he's manipulating me. I know he is. I know he is. He wants to keep me on his good side so that he can get me to do things that he wants me to do that are advantageous for him and like whatever he wants. And I know that. And there are things that he says and does that I know he has no fucking intention of following through with. And that's fine too, because no one owes anyone anything, right? But it's just like, I even look at that situation of like a person that I actually do just like. I just like him. And I know that even that's not real. That's not fucking real. It's all another fucking manipulation. And that's the way it is with like literally everyone in this world. It's just like all a fucking manipulation. It's all a lie. It's all a fucking inauthentic farce. And anyway, like what I'm saying is like the more weight I lose, the more sensitive I'm getting to like these types of energies. And I knew this was going to happen. And this is one of the reasons I didn't want to lose weight in the fucking first place. Like the more fucking weight I lose, the more psychic I get. And the more I feel all of this shit on like a deep internal level. And I'm like, man, can I just go back to fucking meditation retreats? Can I just go back and do spiritualist retreats? Can I just go back and do a Bashar retreat? I want to go to a Bashar retreat. I do want to go to a Bashar retreat. There's going to be a Bashar retreat in a couple months. Maybe I'm going to go to that Bashar retreat, okay? Maybe I'm going to do that shit. Yo, we got Lisa. Holy shit. Old sub. My God. Lisa Old Granny in with the 5 channel memberships. I really appreciate you, Lisa Old Granny. And then we got Old Sub. The fucking king. Old Sub is like, Karlyn's upset. I'm gonna make her real happy. Yeah, Old Sub. Okay, yeah, you win, Old Sub. You win the fucking internet, bro. You win the fucking internet. You are the big swinging dick of the chat. We all know it. We all love you for it. Old Sub gifting out 50 fucking channel memberships, bro. I mean, what a fucking legend. That brings us up to 125 channel memberships given out today. I promise you, I don't tell these sob stories to get Old Sub to get me channel memberships. I promise you this is what I've been thinking about for 2 straight days. Is like, I need to go to do a fucking ayahuasca ceremony. You know, it's funny. A friend of mine, an old friend of mine from the before. Okay, last story before we go into spy stream. I swear to God, we're doing a spy stream in like 8 minutes. An old friend of mine reached out to me over the weekend. And this is someone from the before times. This is someone from back when I worked in higher education. I literally went to this girl's wedding. We were friends. We were in the same kind of like friendship group. We like knew each other in the world of higher education. We both worked for colleges. Hadn't talked to this woman for years. A couple weeks ago, she reached out to me and she was like, Karlyn, her husband's a veteran and he has horrible PTSD. She's like, Karlyn, My husband is thinking about doing an ayahuasca retreat to help with the PTSD. And this woman is like a devout Christian. Her husband's like a devout Christian. She's texting me because she knew I did ayahuasca back in the day, and that was one of the things that, like, I don't know, kind of precipitated my downfall into politics, honestly. But she reached out to me. She texted me a couple weeks ago. Karlyn, my husband is thinking about going on an ayahuasca ceremony for the PTSD, and do you have any advice about this? And I was shocked. I was shocked beyond all belief. And I was like, I think that's a really good fucking idea, and I will help you in any way I can, and I will tell you what I know. She texted me over the weekend and she said, he's going, and he actually found in the United States a specific ayahuasca retreat for veterans to help with issues around PTSD and things like that. There's actually a specific church that does this, and he's going to go on that retreat. And I was just like, God damn, I want to go do ayahuasca again. It's been years since I did ayahuasca. I haven't done ayahuasca since like 2018. I want to go do ayahuasca again. Like, I fucking need this shit. I am so sick of this bullshit world in which I have found myself, where I'm surrounded by fucking inauthentic, just creatures on both sides of me. There's no human beings in this fucking world. It's all just bullshit. It's all just bullshit and fucking nonsense. And I'm so fucking sick of it. And I want truth, and I want like experience, and I want all that shit that I used to have in my real fucking life, and I don't have anymore. Anyway, old sub, I hate manipulating people. Give me a name. We can't lose the cult. No, we will never lose the cult, old sub. Not with people like you, and I really appreciate it. All right, now that I'm done whining and complaining on the internet, who wants to watch a leftist training? We're doing 2 back-to-back spy streams tonight. We're going to be watching 2 live leftist trainings. And as a reminder, guys, these are live. I do not know what they're going to say. I do not know what they're going to do. I will not talk over them because this is my recording too. We are watching 2 different organizing calls tonight. Now, the first one is supposed to last an hour and a half, but we're probably only going to watch the first hour because we got to go to the second one, because the second one starts at 8 p.m. So we're doing kind of like a back-to-back. There's a little bit of overlap. I don't think it's going to be a big deal to miss the last half hour of the first one. And so I really we're going to have a good night. And Tori says, and I really appreciate this, Tori, these gifted channel memberships are the only way many people like me that live well the poverty line can get educated. I didn't know about the funding of the leftist organizations. Well, Tori, I'm so glad you got a channel membership, and I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're utilizing the channel membership. Guys, if you get a channel membership, please utilize it. Most spy streams I do are for supporters only. So if you get a channel membership, please come to Spy Stream. You can also come to movie night with us later tonight in the Discord. We're watching The Wall tonight in the Discord for 420. I mean, like, what a perfect fucking movie for 420. We're going to be doing that. And so, guys, please don't, if you get a channel membership, actually utilize it. There are a lot of people who want them. I wish we could give them out to everyone. This is why I try to focus on the gifted channel memberships, to try to make this information available to as many people as possible. Please use them, okay? I love people who appreciate the channel membership gifts, because again, it's not just about appreciating what I do. It's about appreciating the contributions that other people in the community are making, which is pretty fucking awesome. You took your edible too early? Let's take another one. Let's eat a fucking another one. You can take 2, but you can take 2, you can take 3. You could take more than that, but things might get a little crazy, but you can actually take more than 1 edible. I mean, I'm not giving advice or anything. I would never do that. Obviously, don't do drugs, kids. Drugs are bad, okay? But you can actually do more than 1, and it'll probably be fun. All right, let me get into the call. All right, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. You know what? I once accidentally ate, and it was actually an accident. I once accidentally ate a whole fucking chocolate bar, like in one sitting. The hallucinations I had that night, let me tell you, but I was fine. I was fine the next day. But man, let me tell you what, that was fucking wild. That was fucking wild. That was fucking wild right there. It was a little alarming, I have to say. I remember actually being terrified at one point, but it was fine. I survived. It wasn't like the last time I did mushrooms where I thought I was going to kill myself. I didn't think, oh, sorry, not that I thought I was going to kill I thought I was going to die. I didn't shoot. No, I didn't think I was going to kill myself. That's not what happened. I thought I was going to die the last time I did mushrooms. Or I guess if I died from that, it would have been that I killed myself because I took them in the first place. But but that wasn't the intention. I am not suicidal. No, I just had a really bad trip and I thought I was going to die. And so I've never done mushrooms again since then. That was the last time. It was bad. I didn't like it at all. Anyway, and it's funny too because I'm not even scared of death. I'm actually curious to find out what happens after we die. I'm not saying I want it to happen anytime soon. We're waiting for the call, by the way. That's why I'm yapping. I'm not saying I want it to happen anytime soon. I'm just saying that like I'm not actually afraid of dying. I just don't want it to be painful. That's it. I just want it to be quick and painless. But I also am not ready to go yet. I'm not ready to go yet. I'll be ready to go decades from now when I'm old and, you know, all this stuff. Yeah, you ate pasta sauce. Wow. And then 2 brownies on top of it. I bet you had fun that night. I remember one time in high school, a few of us got some good shrooms and we're convinced we died and we're exploring the afterlife. It was fun. Yeah. It can be fun. Mushrooms can be great. They can be great fun. I'm just saying that I was traumatized by that last time and I don't want to do it again. But unironically, I'm like, can I just go to an ayahuasca retreat? Like unironically, like I did ayahuasca before I did mushrooms. Ayahuasca was the first psychedelic I ever did. And I wouldn't even say I had a real psychedelic experience the first time I did it. I did the third time I did it, but not the first 2 times. So it's funny. Like I'm actually less afraid of ayahuasca than I am of mushrooms because I've never had a bad experience. I've done half a dozen ayahuasca retreats, never had a bad experience. Mushrooms fucked me up. No, the leftists don't utilize drones. I understand why you're asking that, but they don't utilize drones. Leftists hate surveillance. Leftists are vehemently anti-surveillance, so they wouldn't be using drones to surveil people. Good question though, and I appreciate that you went to Crime Think to look it up because that's actually the thing you should be doing. If you have a question about what the left believes, go to a website like Crime Think, go to a website like the Anarchist Library, and you'll be able to find what they think about it. So actually, like good on you because most people don't take that step. But yeah, I've never seen them advocate for using drones or anything like that. Good question though. We're just waiting for the meeting to get started, guys. We are waiting. Please mount the like button if you have not already. Took brownies to school and the teacher ate half of them. You know, that's one way to get them out of your hair, I guess. You thought you were dead on ketamine? I've never done ketamine. I knew I had friends who did, but I never did. Yeah, guys, we will be watching The Wall tonight in the supporter Discord. If you're not yet a member of the supporter Discord, just check the post tab on YouTube or check the chat on Substack. You will find the link to join the supporter Discord there from last night's movie night announcement. We will be watching The Wall at 9 p.m. Eastern time for MacB's movie night. So come join us for movie night. And, you know, if you want to bring your own entertainment, you are welcome to do that. We don't judge, obviously. Drugs are bad, yo. Don't do drugs. What do you? I always say that drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. What are you talking about? But are psychedelics really drugs? I mean, honestly, mushrooms are mushrooms. Like they grow in the ground. Mushrooms are here because God loves us and wants us to be happy. Ayahuasca is a leaf in a vine that grows in the jungle that you brew into a tea. Like these things are naturally growing. Weed is a plant. It's a fucking plant. Like, yeah, drugs are bad. Okay. But like, why would these things be here if they weren't supposed to be here? Like, you know, like right wingers want to talk about, you know, like that, like what do right wingers believe that's not evolution? Right wingers believe in like creationism and like God created everything and blah blah blah. Well, guess what? God created weed. God created ayahuasca. God created mushrooms. God created all of these things as well. These are naturally occurring phenomenon. Did God not create those because you don't like them? It's like,
recording in progress.
Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Spy stream time. Is chat open? Ooh, yep.
Welcome, folks. We're gonna wait one more minute before we get started, but we're really excited to have you all on tonight.
This is going to be, just so you guys know.
And yeah, as folks are coming in, feel free to, in the chat, share your names, your pronouns if you'd like,
Pronouns.
your org or union if you're part of one,
Unions.
where you're calling in from tonight, and what brought you to this call.
So this call is called No War, No Ice, Free Palestine. It's with the Mayday Strong Coalition. So this is the first call that we're listening to. So it's going to be really about like anti-war, like anti-ice stuff.
Many different parts of the country, which is amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
And before we jump into our content, we are going to do some language justice instructions for tonight. As we'll see, we're offering ASL and Spanish interpretation. So if Vanessa, I believe you're the one who's going to lead us through that.
Greetings to all. Bienvenidas todas y todos. Tenemos interpretación disponible esta noche. We have interpretation available tonight, and I'm going to give the instructions on how to use it. Voy a dar las instrucciones de cómo habilitar la opción de interpretación. Van a hacer clic en el icono del globito en la parte baja de su ventana de Zoom y van a elegir la opción de idioma de su preferencia. Si están desde un celular, la opción de los tres puntitos que dice más o more, abre la opción de lenguaje y ahí eligen de su preferencia. For our English speakers, if you click on the bottom part of your Zoom screen, the globe icon, that will open the language options, and there you choose the language of your preference, English or Spanish. And you have simultaneous interpretation, and welcome. Thanks for having us. Gracias a todos. Tengan un buen
Gracias,
webinar.
señor.
And I want to just make a quick note about our ASL interpretation. As you can see, our interpreter Rashida is pinned on the screen. So she will be providing interpretation throughout the duration of the call. And this is our friendly reminder to speakers to speak slowly.
Thank you for that, Lone. And folks, please feel free to continue sharing in the chat your names, your orgs, your unions, where you're calling from tonight, and what is exciting about this call. We are recording this call, so you'll also be able to share it with others after tonight. But also, if you know someone who is should be on this call, definitely send them the link as we get started. So my name is Rama. I am with the Action Center on Race and the Economy and Bargaining for the Common Good. And it's really good to be with all of you this evening to talk about our organizing and mobilizing for Mayday, which is only 10 days away. Acre BCG, Rising Majority, and Organized Power in Numbers wanted to host this mass call because we truly believe our struggles for freedom and justice must connect beyond the sectors we're in, beyond the movements we do most of our organizing within, and definitely beyond borders. We know that like the authoritarians of different countries are supporting one another. We cannot limit our framing then to what's happening just within our own countries. When we know that the corporate actors who are complicit in ICE kidnappings of our neighbors here are also massacring our fellow workers abroad, we know we have to demand then an end to all this profiteering from all this harm. And when the billionaires are colluding against us, that means the people everywhere must rise up and resist. And the particular focus of this call being no war, no ICE, free Palestine, is important. As we all know, at the end of February, the US and Israel launched a war on Iran, and one of the very first acts of this war was massacring over 160 people, mostly schoolgirls, because they bombed their school. And even though there is supposedly a ceasefire right now, we know we can't trust Trump. We know we can't trust Israel. Israel also during this time period ended its ceasefire with Lebanon. There has been supposedly a ceasefire in Gaza for the past 6 months, but that definitely hasn't ended Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people, whether in Gaza or the West Bank. So we cannot act like the war is over just because there's a ceasefire. We also have heard that Trump continues to threaten, we also know that Trump continues to threaten Venezuela. The embargo on Cuba continues. And he's also announced that he's seeking a Pentagon budget of $1.5 trillion, the most ever requested for war. And so it seems like we always have money for killing and destruction, money to enrich the weapons and tech companies, but never for the schools we need, the housing we need, the healthcare we need, never enough money to pay people good salaries, and everything else we might need to thrive. So we really wanted to bring together tonight long-term anti-war organizers, Iranian and Palestinian activists, and labor organizers to share together what we're thinking about for Mayday. We'll also share a little bit later in the call a toolkit that's specifically highlighting the ideas and actions we can take around the call and demand for no war, no ICE, and free Palestine. And I'm going to pass it now to my co-MC, Lone Tran from Rising Majority, to also welcome you all.
Thank you, Rama, for that welcome. Welcome, everyone, to the call this evening. We are going to get some of the latest updates on what is happening in Iran. We're going to hear from labor leaders. We're going to hear from many incredible leaders across our movements who are making the connections on Mayday. And so you might be really curious, you might have some questions. We encourage you to use the chat, but also be mindful that sometimes the chat can get a little distracting. And so as speakers are speaking, really encouraging you to listen as these comrades are sharing really important insights, their plans for Mayday, and inviting all of us to take action together. And you can also use the Q&A function, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. That is enabled. You can send those questions in directly to us, and then we'll do our best to address them. And it's possible that through the evening, they will be addressed by speakers as well in their remarks. So thank you again for coming to this call. You likely have already been involved in your community. You might be accompanying your neighbors. You may have for the more than over 2 years now organizing to end the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. You've been taking action with your local union, with your local organization to stop ICE from harming our communities. You may have been doing mutual aid distributions to ensure that your neighbors can get their groceries and meals despite all of the terror in our streets. You may have turned out for No Kings on March 28th. This could be the first time that you're taking action. It could be the 100th time that you're taking action. This could be the first time you're contacting Congress, or this could be the 20th time. Wherever you're coming from, whatever you have done, whatever you hope to do, we are very grateful that you are on this call this evening. There is no way through the horrors of these times except to continue to build a fighting movement together. Everyone is needed. Everything is needed. And so we thank you in advance for being here. And we are so excited to see what we can do together on Mayday and beyond. So with that, I am very grateful to be able to welcome our first speaker, historian and activist, Professor Barbara Ransby, who's going to give us a little bit more of a grounding in this moment.
Thank you, Lone. Appreciate being here and want to send out greetings to our large and beautiful and messy and eclectic political family. Greetings to those of you known to me, and greeting to my beloved comrades I have not yet met. We are in this together, my friends, in this dangerous, precarious, hopeful moment. We're up against one of the richest and most ruthless ruling classes in history. We're confronting a war at home and a bloody regional war abroad. Our family members and neighbors are being snatched off the street, literally. Immigrant neighbors and those who dare to be in solidarity with them, even some just caught in the crossfire, are being shot in the street by thugs who are agents of ICE, agents of the federal government. Not only Alex Preddy and Renee Good, who we rightfully mourn, but Keith Porter Jr., a Black man in LA, shot by out-of-control ICE agent on New Year's Eve. And here in Chicago, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a 38-year-old father of two. And of course, this latest war on the people of Iran that has already taken thousands of civilian lives. Building off the genocide in Gaza, which could only be carried out in tandem with the racist dehumanization of the Palestinian people in media and public statements, we now hear this president brazenly and unashamedly threaten to the utter destruction of an entire civilization. And he did so in our names, which is why our actions and our voices are so important, which is why we have to come out in very large numbers on Mayday, together, united, with rallies and vigils and teach-ins, and most importantly, a general strike. That means don't buy, don't work, don't shop, don't show up except to protest. This moment is not normal, and we cannot act as if it is. Normal was bad enough. This is something different. It is the sign of a system in crisis, desperate and resorting to desperate measures to corral us, to scapegoat us, to scare us, to distract us, and to pit us against one another. The bottom line is we are up against a proto-fascist authoritarian regime headed toward full-fledged fascism, but only if we allow it to happen.
I fucking wish.
We have to understand this 20th century brand of fascism with Trump at the center, but not the sole actor. We have to understand that it is about promoting a US-centered, venomous form of white Christian nationalism. It is about a gut-wrenchingly callous form of militarism that has tapped toxic masculinity and heteropatriarchy to fuel it. If we just listen to Hegseth's rants, imploring God to kill his enemies, and Trump trying to pick a fight with the Pope, they are deploying religiosity in service to capital, in particularly bold and brazen ways. But then, of course, we know that the cross and the sword were the tools of colonial conquest. Another thing we have to name, though, in naming Trump and this particular brand of fascism, is that at their core, they're a bunch of greedy hustlers, kleptocrats, and grifters.
True.
There are too many examples of this to list, but we need to always understand the link between militarism, empire, and capital. So the US government is not, as I said, in the mode of full-fledged fascism, because we wouldn't likely be able to even have this call if that was the case. But that is the trajectory. And we know there are many faces of fascism around the world and over time. We're not unfamiliar. Fascism is the violent repressive system of Jim Crow that terrorized the US South for generations. Fascism is the pillage, plunder, and pummel of colonial regimes throughout the global South for decades. But fascism is also the now defeated Viktor Orban in Hungary, who ruled that country with cruelty and a vitriolic Trump-like nationalism for 16 years. The point is that every dictator goes a mile too far, and Trump, we hope, may be undoing himself as we speak. So I have spent most of my limited time talking about the mess we're in, but I don't want to understate it. We do not have the luxury of cynicism or despair. We've had millions in the street, and we will have millions more on Mayday. And a twist of fate is that Trump has been so vulgar, so mean, so nasty, so callous, that he has created and grown his own opposition. And that opposition are our potential comrades. All we need to do is to do the work and organize them.
I agree with you, Dragontail. Thank you.
Under a big, capacious banner, we have to organize. We have to organize a banner that not only says no war and no ICE, which it should, but also has to say no white supremacy, no heteropatriarchy, free Palestine, abolish ICE, save the planet, and unshackle us from the confines of racial capitalism, because it is all related. Those are a lot of words, but we are a big, big tent, and we cannot shy away from the vast dreams and the vast ambitions of our people. As Ramah said, we have to organize beyond borders, and within cities, we have to be radically inclusive. The future is in our collective hands, my beloved community. Let's mourn the dead and fight like hell for the living. Nothing less than our children's future and the memory of our ancestors is what is at stake. I've been in this struggle on one front or another for over 50 years, from a teenager in Detroit to the anti-apartheid movement, to the Black Radical Congress, to the solidarity movement with Palestine. And I have never been either more terrified or more hopeful than I am right now. I know together we can fight and move the needle on freedom. We have to muster our courage, embrace each other, and stand firmly on the right side of history. I hope to see you in the crowd on Mayday, sending out love and solidarity.
Thank you so much, Professor Barbara, for those words. Please, everyone, can you join me in showing appreciation? It's so important in this moment to ground ourselves in the history of where we're at while we're doing our rapid response, while we're urgently organizing and mobilizing in this moment. We can't do that well without knowing the history of where all the actions that are happening are taking from. So it's always an honor to hear from our scholar activists and to help us, have the right framing and grounding in this moment. So thank you again so much, Professor Barbara Ransby. I'm honored to welcome our next speaker, who I've known for a while and have organized alongside. Huda is an Iranian-American organizer, and she's going to be grounding us in what things have been like in Iran these last few weeks and why, like we've been saying, we need to mobilize and organize around a no-war demand, even with a ceasefire at this moment. It's not the time to just be like, okay, we can take this demand off of our long list of demand. We actually have to double down at this time. So would love to welcome Huda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Salam, and thank you so much for having me and for everybody showing up and seeing all of these wonderful, familiar faces and new faces. Thank you for also giving me the challenging displeasure of having to go after Dr. Ransby, which is an impossible ask. But so thank you so much for your words as always. I want to also apologize. I'm at the airport. My background is usually cuter than this and quieter than this, so I hope everything is coming through quite clearly. I want to just mention that, start off by saying, as an Iranian American living in the United States, these past few months have been indescribable, and I say months because starting from January, it has been a hellish year for Iranians in Iran and in diaspora. It's indescribable because I don't know how to describe the feeling of having to figure out how to process the president of your country saying he's going to end your civilization. I don't know how to process the threat of my family being nuked. I don't know how to articulate into words having to experience all of this after also mass death in Iran in January, where there was just so many unknowns that came out and were circulated, so much disinformation. And what is really, really challenging, but I recognize, given this particular historical moment that we're in right now, watching a genocide unfold on our phones for the past years and years, I also recognize that, like, while it's very indescribable, this feeling that I have been going through and so many millions of other Iranians have been going through for these past few months, if all of us do not collectively work to interrupt this normalization of slaughter and white supremacy, it is something that I am sad to say that everybody in this room here presently and watching after will become quite familiar, intimately familiar with these feelings. Because it's not going to stop at Iran, and it has not stopped at Iran. So to that point, I want to kind of focus on three key things that I just want to state that we can be takeaways from this conversation. The first is that some things, like in this moment, do feel very much the same type of descriptions of violence, the same types of excuses of saving people to bomb countries, the same types of empire language. And at the same time, we are at a cataclysmic shift in history. And I know oftentimes we talk about, the rise of fascism, the rise of authoritarianism. It actually is here. We are in authoritarianism. We are in fascism. And I think we have to actually recognize and grasp and grapple with the fact that it actually has arrived and it is here. And this means that we actually have to have a fundamental re-strategizing of everything that we have taken for granted in the movement up until this point. We have so much to learn from the struggles of Palestinians, Iranians, Iraqis, Sudanese people, because these are lessons that we can learn from here in the United States about people who have dealt with authoritarianism for decades. And so this is not just a moment where I'm going to ask you to be in solidarity with the people of Iran. You are already in this struggle. You're actually a part of and a piece of this struggle, whether you like it or not. It's your choice whether you want to play an active role or a passive role in the struggle for our collective liberation. But you're not in solidarity with Iranians. You're not in solidarity with Palestinians. You're actually part and parcel of the struggle on a global level of the Palestinian struggle, of the Iranian struggle, of the Sudanese struggle.
It's all a struggle against capitalism.
And I think that therefore we have so much that we can learn from these struggles and actually look to these movements as sources of knowledge rather than merely something that we're doing to people over there. And I think in terms of how this is supposed to impact our strategy, we really have to think about, like, what does this mean? We can't just simply continue to run into the machine and call ourselves martyr. We actually have to be questioning and adapting our strategies. We can't just say we're doing things for public opinion when right now public opinion for the war in Iran is at an all-time low, and that isn't stopping anything. Is public opinion enough? Is that what our goals are, to just change public opinion? Or are we actually building power? Are we learning how to actually build power and leverage asymmetries of power, which we have also learned can be quite effective if we're strategic about how we're leveraging our power that we do have. 2 points I want to say in the next 2 minutes. One is that ceasefire is not accountability, and there's never been a ceasefire that Israel has ever accepted and not violated. And so this is not over. This actually is the beginning. And wars devastate our communities twofold. One, in the actual devastation and destruction of our homeland, and the second, in the authoritarian regimes that they usher in and worsen domestically. And so it is precisely my love for my people, bombed and incarcerated in Iran, and my deep, unwavering belief in our struggles collectively and people's movements, that I can say that our goal in the United States actually is not merely just to end the war, but actually to sever the United States' relationship with Zionism, Israel, white supremacy, capitalism, because all of us, from the United States to Iran to Palestine, we should be able to believe in people's movements and our ability to fight for the world that we deserve.
The left believes Israel is capitalism.
Building on what Dr. Ramsey said, is that despair is everywhere right now. We are all overwhelmed, and that is designed to be so. Despair is a politics. It is actually a politics and process of convincing people that they don't have agency and actually designed to teach us to outsource the power that we do have to our oppressors. And instead, we are looking for heroes, states, representatives, instead of actually us doing the work, rolling up our sleeves, talking to our neighbors, going on strike. This work is actually on us, on every single one of us in this room as a collective.
Do the
And
work.
this is students, neighbors, and as workers, we have power and agency, and we should never allow our oppressors to take that away from us. I think the Iranian diaspora has learned this lesson the hard way, but I hope that all of us can recognize that the feeling of overwhelmed is designed to keep us quiet and to keep us overwhelmed and sad and crying in our rooms, which I admit I also do. But we should not give them that power over us.
Me
we
too,
do have
girl.
power. We
Me
actually
too.
like literally have it, and together we are infinitely stronger. And so I'm excited to see everybody striking together. And this is one way that all of us can put our foot in and build from here. Thank you so much.
By the way, I've decided I'm going to do commentary over the spy streams tonight. This
Thank
is going
you
to be
so
like a
much,
Mystery
Huda.
Science
Please,
Theater
everyone,
3000
join
experience.
me in
I normally
appreciating
don't do this,
Huda,
but I'm in a pissy
all
mood, so
the
please
hearts and
allow.
the thumbs up and the claps. Really, thank you so much, Huda, for grounding us in this moment of the people who are on the front lines under the bombs at this moment, just reminding us of what they're going through, what their families in the diaspora are going through, but also that we all have that power. And Huda's right. Sometimes we fall into this trap of like, who's going to come and be the leader that's going to carry us through this moment in time? And it's us. It's each and every single one of us. And for that reason, we're going to share at the moment a link that we have towards a toolkit that we're hoping everyone looks at, takes back to their communities, to their orgs, looks at through with their neighbors, their colleagues, and thinks about, okay, how are we going to talk about the war on Iran this Mayday? How are we going to talk about how we free Palestine in this moment? And how are we going to talk about the connections that we keep talking about, that our struggles are not in silos, that our movements are interconnected, that we need to talk across borders, across cities, and really this sense of internationalism is so important. And so this link, which thank you for our tech support team for dropping in the chat, is where you're going to find ideas to how to organize, again, around no war, no ICE, free Palestine. So that includes, for example, if there's already a march or a rally happening in your city, we have an idea of like, how do you set up a no war, no ICE, free Palestine contingent as part of that planned rally already?
I'll put the link in the chat.
And you can think about potential corporate actors to highlight in your actions. Again, the same corporate actors that are giving the technology to ICE are also providing the AI that the United States is using in its wars, that Israel is using in its genocides. And that is an important thing to highlight. We have sample talking points, we have sample slogans, chants, and graphics you can use. And we also have resources to help you think about how you make the posters, the banners, the t-shirts, and so much more. And we're going to continue adding to this toolkits up to Mayday. We also have specific ideas for folks who are in labor formations and unions in terms of what to take action around. The larger call this Mayday is no work, no school, no shopping. But then how do we, again, bring also the framing of no war and free Palestine to all of that? And we also, obviously, because we know Mayday is one point of action, and we're going to have to continue to build post-Mayday too. So we have some ideas in there also.
Oh, it's not just about Mayday, it's about all summer
as well.
Oh, wow.
And I'd love if folks already are having some ideas about how they're going to use Mayday to mobilize in your cities or to organize your neighbors, your fellow workers, your faith community members. We'd love to see people share that in the chat. And I think I saw someone earlier post this video, but we'll post another link as well for some inspiration. But earlier today, some members of About Face, who are veterans against the war, took action in DC.
Oh, that was About Face.
And did some civil disobedience.
Oh, that was About
really
Face
say, no,
in DC.
we don't want
I
war in
tweeted
Iran,
about that. About Face
and we don't want militarism. And who better?
They are veterans, though, so we should actually be
bring
respectful
that message,
of that,
other than the people who have been through it before.
That was about
especially
face.
Iraq. These
How
are veterans
funny.
that came out of the Iraq War specifically. And I'm also going to pass it to Lone, who also has some resources to
Hey,
share.
why didn't the right organize anti-war veterans? Why didn't that happen?
Thanks, Ram.
Why was there no
be sure to
anti-war
check
organizing
out
going
that
on the right? Oh, because
Mayday
they're all fucking
anti-war
pro-war.
toolkit. There's lots and lots of good stuff in there that you can
So it's almost like the
print out, that
anti-ICE
you
or the
can
anti-war
copy, that you
veterans
can
had
post
nowhere to go but the
online,
left
hand
because the
out
right didn't
during
do
your
shit and they wanted
contingents.
war.
And a lot of love to our anti-war vets who put their bodies on the line today.
Yeah, veterans should be respected.
There's one more
guys.
resource
Honestly,
that we want to share with folks.
The shitting on the
as
veterans
part of
is like not
this
becoming.
moment, as Dr. Ransby and Hoda have talked about, we have to build big.
Regardless of whether you agree with their politics,
We have
veterans
to
should be
lean
fucking
into our
respected. I'm
power, and we
sorry.
have to flex that power. That means that it's going to take everything. It's going to take mobilizations on Mayday. It's going to take walkouts. It's going to take economic
You don't have to agree with what they say, but they actually
it's
did
going to
something.
take creative
You know,
actions.
it's like
and yes,
they
it's
earn their
also
right
gonna
to say
take
whatever the fuck they
congressional
want.
action. And you can raise your hand if you're like, I've been calling these people every single day. You've maybe
About
been
Face
on a
is not
power
pro-Israel
hour, you've
at
sent
all.
the emails, you've written the letters. That is still a terrain of struggle that we cannot concede, because Congress has a responsibility and the authority to put an end to this immoral and illegal war on Iran. It has the ability to stop weapons transfers to Israel that is bombing people in Gaza, people in Iran, people in
And if the
Lebanon.
right doesn't like that the
And so
veterans
we
are
can't
fucking
let them off the
protesting,
hook.
they need
And
to
these are
actually
our
treat
tax
them with
dollars.
respect and
These
say,
are our
hey, what are your guys'
representatives who are
fucking
supposed to
grievances? Like,
represent
this
our
is not
interests.
hard. It is
And
not
the
difficult
consensus
to
is
treat
changing.
people with like
Just
basic
recently,
fucking
when
respect.
Bernie Sanders introduced the joint resolution of
Even if you don't
disapprovals
like
to
them and
block
even if you don't
additional
like what they're
weapons to
talking about.
Israel, we had an additional 13 members of Congress vote for the JRDs. And that was an increase from 25 yes votes to, I can't do my math, to 40 yes votes since last July, right? So our movements are the ones that are making this possible. So let's not take for granted any pathway that is available to us to take action. So we've shared that tool in the chat and encourage you to forward it as well. So now for the rest of the call, we're going to get to hear from a number of other leaders who are planning for Mayday, who are going to talk about what their formations are prioritizing and doing to inspire us and give us some ideas for our own organizing. So I'm really glad and really grateful to introduce now Aru Shiny Ajay, who's the Executive
Sunrise
Director
Movement.
at Sunrise Movement.
Hi, y'all. What
Hi,
an honor
Aru.
to be speaking with everyone today, 10 days ahead of Mayday. Like Clone said, my name is Aru Shania J. I'm the executive director of Sunrise, and I live in South Minneapolis. And if you've heard of Sunrise before, you might have heard of Sunrise as a climate movement. We are a youth climate movement. We did a lot of organizing to win the biggest climate legislation in American history. But around 8 months ago, we decided to take a step back. And we realized that there was really no way to do the work that we were doing without tackling the problem of authoritarianism head on. So we called all of our hubs and we voted, and we've decided to do exactly that, to start preparing for what was like the greatest crisis of democracy that we've ever seen, because at the end of the day, we don't believe that we can really meaningfully stop the climate crisis under this current administration. And I say that because I think this moment calls each of us to step a little bit outside of whatever our comfort zones are, whatever we think we're good at, whatever we think our lane is, not just as organizations, but as people too. Maybe you think I'm not an organizer. Maybe you think I don't know how to talk to new people. But what this moment calls from all of us, all of our people, all of our institutions, every connection we have, is to take one step outside of our comfort zone, one step to meet the moment beyond what we think we can. That's what we did a few months ago. And all across the country, our hubs prepared to think about what campaigns could actually tackle authoritarianism in their cities. And in the Twin Cities, where I live, my hub decided to start to prepare for what would happen if ICE escalated in our cities, because we were hearing rumors that that might happen. And when that happened, it was really like nothing I've ever experienced, both one of the scariest and most inspiring things. It taught me what in some ways I have always known, that ordinary people run this country. We run it, we clean the streets and we serve the food and we staff the hotels and we drive the cars and the buses. And at the end of the day, if we choose to stop consenting with whatever is going on, then we are actually able to win. That's the lesson that the Twin Cities showed. That's the lesson that our hub was able to tap into. And what Sunrise has been doing in the last few months is really focusing in on the corporations that are enabling authoritarianism in this moment. In particular, we've been focusing on Hilton and Enterprise, the corporations that ICE was using in Minneapolis to be able to sleep at night, to be able to drive around during the day, to be able to kidnap people in. What we would do is we'd go to the middle of the night, we'd go make a bunch of noise outside of hotels so that ICE agents couldn't get a good night's sleep, and so that hotels kicked out ICE agents. And we'd go and we'd make Enterprise reservations and we'd cancel them, and we'd make Hilton reservations and we'd cancel them. And what that did was it created a really clear counter pressure to say that corporations, you currently have a choice. You only operate because ordinary people let you operate. And you can either choose to side with Trump, with authoritarianism, with ICE, with this illegal and unlawful actions, or you can choose to stand with ordinary people. And there is one choice that is not only morally better, but is better for your business model too. That's what we were actually making clear. Because the thing is right now is we have to use every lever of power that we have access to. And right now, corporations are a place, businesses are a place where we have leverage. That's the same core logic that Mayday is tapping into, that we have power in society, and Mayday is a threat, a warning sign, that if you try and mess with American elections, if you try and deny the results of the midterms, if you try and run for a third term in 2028, or refuse to leave office, or refuse to seat people, then we actually have millions of people ready to stop letting society operate until you give us what we want. That's what we're doing. We're issuing a warning shot in 10 days. That means, what that means is that the next 10 days is really important, because the bad thing about this is that if we try and issue a warning shot and that shot isn't that strong, it doesn't look so good for us. So whatever you're doing right now on this call, I'm going to ask you to take one step more towards Mayday. Maybe that means reaching out to the small businesses in your area and saying, hey, can you close down for the day? Maybe that means going and talking to your neighborhood and organizing a contingent towards Mayday and talking about the connections to war and free Palestine. Maybe it means going to your school or going to your workplace. Whatever it means, it is going to take ordinary conversations with ordinary people. And one thing that I'll say here is that I think a lot of the time people underestimate the level of support that we actually have. Most people who aren't coming to an event aren't not coming because they don't believe. I see this question in the chat, do we have millions of people? Yes. People don't not come because they don't agree with us. Actually, huge majorities of the American public agree with us. But many people are skeptical that protest actually works. And so our jobs, it's actually a lot easier than convincing people to agree with us. Huge amounts of people don't approve of the war in Iran, don't approve of what Trump is doing, think prices are too high, think that billionaires have too much control over government, want clean green energy instead of to be oil dependent, want Medicare for all. These are all positions that have 60, 70% of the American public on our side. But our job is to go out there and tell people, hey, what you actually do makes a difference. And if you go out and strike on Mayday, that is a stepping stone into creating massive change in this country. Not only kicking Trump out, but being able to build the type of government by and for the people that we can actually get what we want in society. So that's what I believe with all my heart. I believe the people are on our side. I think there's a lot of evidence to show that. I think the growing protests every few months from No Kings really is a big sign of that. And Mayday is our chance to show the escalation that we actually are able to pull off. And it's going to take all of us. So the last note I'll end on is I really believe we're in a pivotal moment, not just for our country, but for human history. The things that we do in the next 10 years determine whether or not we have a country and a world that is able to tackle a
10
growing
years.
climate crisis.
That's the timeline.
Whereas
10
temperatures
years,
get higher and
guys.
higher, whether we have societies that will respond with compassion and care, whether we will actually try and tackle and decarbonize our economy, or whether we will build higher border walls and imprison more people and let billionaires build their little castles as the rest of us suffer, or whether we are actually going to build a world that works for all of us. We're in a moment of historic opportunity. We have a lot of agency in our hands right now. And the question for us is whether we're going to take it or not.
Oh, they're going to take it, and they're going to win.
Thank you so much.
Because no one's doing
for
anything
sharing
about
all
it.
that. Can we show some appreciation? And yeah, if folks can chat, like, are you all ready to take this action? Because like folks are saying in the chat, we know people are on our side. The polls are sharing it, but are people actually being organized to take the actions that we need to take in this moment? And that's our job. That is our job collectively. Those of us who logged in today and said, I want to learn and connect with other people. I want to share ideas, share lessons I have learned.
Has nothing to
How
do
are
with
we going to
Agenda
do this
2030
together?
on Rumble.
And that's what
Has
we're going to
nothing
be
do with that.
doing
It's a different thing.
through the next 10 days on Mayday in the streets, and obviously beyond that as well. And for our next two speakers, in this moment of time, we know also that unions and labor have a lot of power to take action.
Oh,
Mayday,
yeah?
we know, is about workers. It is about what workers have sacrificed for us to be able to have the rights we have today. And now we need to sacrifice more for worker rights and for our collective rights across the globe. And so one of the programs we have called Bargaining for the Common Good is an approach to organizing that builds power through labor and community groups working together to win more. Sometimes we feel these silos where it's like labor's doing something and our community groups are doing something. That's not how we're going to win. We need to make sure that our unions and our labor formations are going beyond what are considered the bread and butter issues and really using their membership power to take on the same opposition forces that are obviously impacting them and also their greater communities. And that is how we're going to win more for all of us. And so our next two speakers are going to highlight how their locals have been fighting on these greater demands, particularly related to no war, no ICE, and free Palestine. So Kieran is president of CWA 7250, which represents workers at AT&T Mobility retail stores in Minnesota.
Sunrise is
and Lauren is
revolutionary, not
president
progressive.
of UE Local 256, which is the MIT grad student union. So wanted to just introduce both of them and excited to hear your thoughts.
Grad student union. This will be good, actually.
Hey everybody, I'm Kieran. I want to thank Rama and everyone else who invited me to talk. I'm from Minneapolis, and a lot of what I'm going to say is going to be similar to Aru about what's happened in the last few months. As people from the Middle East know already, but people in Minneapolis have really learned, is that we're up against a deadly enemy, literally. Secret police force that will brutalize and abduct people outside daycare centers and gas stations and outside their workplaces, and murder people, including people that were not immigrants but were standing up to defend and protect immigrants from these attacks. That's an important lesson for us all to really take home and to understand, because it shapes what we're up against and the risks that we're willing to take. The other lesson I want to really hit home on is that no one's coming to save us. Some of the politicians in Minnesota were good for some sound bites on TV that made them look clever and brave, but in the streets and in the communities, they were absent. And they not only were absent, but they used their police forces that they do control to help and support ICE. And that is not always well known around the rest of the country, but is the absolute truth that I saw my own eyes on the streets after Alex Preddy was killed. And ICE had a militarized standoff with the community for several hours, shooting tons of tear gas into the air.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was the Minneapolis police and the Hennepin County sheriffs that protected the flank
One in the chat,
of ICE,
that was awesome too in the chat.
while
That
people
sucked.
confronted them for the murder they had just carried out. labor also has a really significant role to play. And as was mentioned earlier, one of the heartening things was that the people in the community stood up and fought back and organized this incredible web of resistance that I think is really similar to things in other countries more than it is to something that we've experienced in the US before. Another piece was that workers in the labor movement were willing and able to organize their unions and their coworkers to use our labor power, that is the withdrawal of our labor, to have an impact on the corporations. And in our own local, we had 80% of our members in Minnesota stay out of work that day. And that didn't come out of nowhere. That came out of a history of organizing in our local and fighting on the bread and butter issues so that nobody could say that what we're doing is a distraction from what, our regular work is. We fight on all those issues about our pay, about our benefits, about the way people are disciplined, about how the people are treated in their workplaces. And that's given us more room to be able to talk about other issues, to talk about Palestine and Ukraine and the war in Iran. And this last month at our membership meeting, our members overwhelmingly endorsed a resolution that condemned the war in Iran and pointed out that the United States and Israel were not acting in regular working people's interests. And in fact, we're going to escalate the costs of people, most importantly in Iran, where thousands of people are being killed, including children. And in the United States, where soldiers are going to come home in coffins and the prices are going to continue to skyrocket.
True.
And again, the way we framed it is not about support for any regime or any politician or any ideology, but it's this real sense of an injury to one is an injury to all. And that is our ethos. That's our religion, I say, is an injury to one is an injury to all. And that means that when working people are under attack anywhere, that we try and do our best to organize and stand up. And resolutions can often be kind of inadequate. But if it's part of a process of education and laying the basis for action, I think they can be important. And I think it is really important for us to take discussions, including the hard questions, and to face up against people. There's a real pro-Israel guy in our local who comes to our meetings and lets me have it every meeting. But we've decided we're not going to try and defeat him bureaucratically, but democratically by winning those arguments with our coworkers. And so far that happens and has happened.
What a concept.
So this Mayday now, we're looking to use those muscles that we've just started to, learn how to use again on January 23rd and show again with people this time all around the country that workers are not going to just sit back and let these these devils have their way. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to be with you and listen to everyone else. And I'm anxious to hear other people's thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that. Please, everyone, show appreciation. And I'm excited to bring on our next speaker, Lauren, from the MIT Grad Students Union.
They were at No Kings. I saw them at No Kings in Boston.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Lauren Chua. I am a PhD student studying material science, and I am also the president of UE Local 256, the MIT Graduate Student Union. Our union represents the 3,000 graduate workers who do the research and teaching work that make MIT run. And today I'm going to take us back 2 years to the encampments and connect what our union did there to the moment we are facing now. MIT is at the center of the military-industrial academic complex, allowing research that directly interfaces with military systems, including work on autonomous drones and remote sensing connected to the Israeli Ministry of Defense. But an overwhelming majority of our members feel strongly that their labor and the reputation of the institute they are a part of should not be used for war or occupation. Many of us at MIT were part of the Palestine Solidarity encampments and broader anti-war movement
The
on
unions
campus.
organized the
These
encampments.
encampments were part of a nationwide wave of protests, students and workers demanding an end to U.S. support for the Israeli genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, and demanding that our institutions stop contributing to violence abroad. At MIT, our demands and the encampment were met with unprecedented disciplinary action by the university, including MIT issuing 22 students suspensions without any due process. Among them were a dozen graduate workers, members of our union. And targeting people of color disproportionately, these suspensions were not the result of any investigations or evidence. They were issued through what can only be described as a dragnet process based on circumstantial claims and procedures that lacked basic fairness. For our members, this meant eviction from campus housing, loss of income, and in some cases, threats to their immigration status. And all of this for participating in peaceful political expression opposing war and genocide. It was a deliberate attempt to chill any organizing against death and destruction on campus. But that strategy did not succeed. Our union and campus movement leaders made an unequivocal decision that we could not allow these injustices go and pass unchallenged. We organized our coworkers to oppose the stripping of due process and mobilized public pressure, which you can see behind me. We connected the disciplinary process to the broader question of employers' near unilateral control over our workplace. And we made it clear that if MIT wanted to discipline workers for political expression, it would have to contend with an organized workforce. And after engaging thousands in a petition and demonstrations on campus, we won. Every single graduate worker who was suspended got their job back. But that outcome was not inevitable. It happened because people, students, workers, community acted collectively, and because we insisted that workers have the right to speak out against injustice, especially when our labor is implicated in it. This is what we need to do this Mayday in 2026. The broader anti-war movement, including the efforts we made during the encampments, depend on our ability to build organization, whether in our workplaces or communities. When workers were suspended that spring during the encampments, our organizers didn't stand around to wait for drawn-out procedures to run their course and hope that MIT would do the right thing and reverse the suspensions. We couldn't wait around for legal or administrative avenues, and that's what we need to understand now. We can't wait for the courts, nor the midterm elections, to fail to deliver justice to working and oppressed people. These are all institutions created by the very forces that allow for an individual like Trump to sit in the White House today. It is the people who can demand and bring justice to this oppressive, warmongering system, and we can do that together on Mayday. Anti-war organizing cannot be separated from workplace organizing, especially in higher education, because ultimately the same group of billionaires who are driving the war on Iran are also defunding education and threatening our jobs and futures. But when we fight together, build together, and learn from these struggles together, we can change society from a system that puts profits over people's lives to one where our vast resources are directed for the benefit of people and the health of our planet.
Communism.
To that end, our union is looking forward to Mayday to join millions of workers calling for no school, no work, no shopping, while attacks on working people everywhere continue. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Please give it up for Lauren in the chat. So incredible to hear from both you as well as Kieran on the important workplace organizing that you're doing. And I just want to re-emphasize the main message here Anything that we want and anything that we would like to win, we have to organize for. It doesn't come automatically. And so if we're wondering, well, how do we get the word out? You know your community best. Use the toolkit, use the language, use the messaging, but tailor it to people you work with every day, people you're going to school with. Take the posters and handbills to your temple, to your barber shop. Maybe you've got a favorite arcade that you go to every Thursday with your friends. These are all great places to get people into motion because they're not going to join us unless we invite them. So I am now really excited to introduce Leah Greenberg, who's the co-executive director at Indivisible.
We can skip Leah. We can skip Leah because the reason that we can skip Leah is we have to go to our next call because there's another call that's about to start. Like right now, we've seen Leah Greenberg like 5 billion times. We know what Leah's going to say. Let's join our second call, which is actually unironically a No Kings call, but this is going to be more of like an anti-ICE, like immigrant rights call. So this is going to be more specifically focused on like immigrant rights. So let's join. That was a pretty good first call though. Okay, they haven't let us in yet. How was that first organizing call for you guys? Are you guys enjoying the Mystery Science Theater 3000 commentary? Or do you guys want me to shut up? One in the chat if you like the Mystery Science Theater style commentary over the spy stream. 2 in the chat if I should shut the fuck up. Let me know. You guys get a vote. If you guys tell me to shut up, I'll shut up. You can be honest. I won't yell at you or anything. 1 in the chat when I talk over the spy stream. 2 in the chat if I should shut up. Okay. I feel like I can talk over these spy streams because these are being recorded by them, and we will have access to the full recording because they're recording them and they're going to put them on the internet. We just happen to be watching them live is the thing. I don't like talking over spy streams when like I don't know if we're going to have access to that recording later because I don't want to miss something. But if I know we're going to have access to the recording later, I don't actually fucking care because it's like we have access to the recording. If I accidentally talk over something important, we can still get that recording. But in this case, I'm pretty sure we're going to have access to the recording. So I don't mind being a little uppity about it, I suppose. Yeah, I know. If we get Ashley tonight on this other call, we would have both the Labubu twins. It's true. Both Labubus in one night.
My name is Carlos. I'm a brown-skinned Latino man with a beard and dark hair, and I'm one of the national campaign directors here at the ACLU.
ACLU!
We're so glad to have you here. Tonight, we will be sharing general information about the law and people's rights, as well as best practices on how to share that information with others. We will not be sharing legal advice. Nothing in this training substitutes for a consultation with an attorney. And by the way, I myself am not a lawyer. We'll get into that a little bit later. But now we'd like to begin by sharing a few privacy reminders with you since this is a public event. In this webinar format, attendees cannot see who is here or see each other.
Karlyn,
keep in mind that anything you put in the chat can be seen by all attendees along with your username. We encourage everyone to show your enthusiasm and support while being careful not to share identifying information such as your location or your last name.
Why wouldn't you want people
Buenas
to know
noches
that?
y a todos y bienvenidos a este taller para conocer a sus derechos. El nombre mío es
Taco,
Carlos Moreno y soy
burrito,
parte del
quesadilla,
ACLU. Soy un
por
hombre
favor.
latino con una barba y un cabello oscuro. Estamos muy contentos de que estén aquí. Hoy vamos a
contento.
compartir información general sobre la ley y los derechos de las personas, al igual que mejores prácticas de cómo compartir esta información con otros. No vamos a compartir asesoría legal. Y nada en este taller sustituye una consulta con un abogado. De hecho, yo no soy abogado tampoco. Queremos empezar compartiendo información para proteger su privacidad, ya que este es un evento público. En este formato no se pueden ver quién está en asistencia, pero recuerde que todo lo que ponga en el chat puede ser visto por todos, al igual que su nombre de usuario. Les invitamos a mostrar su entusiasmo y apoyo sin compartir información que le puede identificar como su ubicación y su apellido. Ahora les invitamos a compartir en el chat a qué los trajo aquí. Now we're going to open the chat, and we'd love to hear what brings you here today. All right.
Chat open. Boom. Let's hear from you guys.
All right. I'm seeing lots of folks coming into the chat. Wonderful to be here.
What are you talking
Thanks
about? There's no one in the chat.
I see folks from San Diego, folks from Texas.
Oh, here we go. Now we're seeing. Never mind.
Let me see. Let's see. Some from Norfolk,
Never
Virginia,
mind.
Evanston. Chat's going so fast, so many folks coming in. I can't keep up. This is all wonderful. Love the energy and enthusiasm. Michigan, New York, Brooklyn, Tucson. It's all piling in. So lovely to see everybody here today. All right, let's go ahead and kick things off. I'd like to kick it over to our interpreter, Elizabeth Torres, who is on this call and will provide instructions on how to use that exact feature. Thank you, Elizabeth. Just a few more notes before we dive in. If you're having any tech issues, please drop a message in the Q&A section and a team member will help you out. You can also use the Q&A function to ask any questions. We have ACLU staff working to answer as many of your questions as possible. But please note that given the large number of people joining us today, we will now close that chat to allow us all to focus on.
No!
We have closed captioning available.
Damn it!
In order to utilize the captions, click the CC button on the bottom of your screen and then select the Show Subtitles feature. Tonight's webinar will be much more engaging if you can join using the Zoom app on your computer or smartphone so that you can see the beautiful slides we've prepared. Everybody who's registered for this training will receive the recording. And finally, if you are a member of the press in attendance, you may send any press-related questions to media@aclu.org. Next slide, please.
I'm not press.
We're now ready for Elizabeth, our interpreter, who will give us our instructions.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. My name is Liz Torres, and I am here with the Community Language Co-op so that we can provide language justice and everyone can hear in the language of their heart. So in a moment, we'll turn on interpretation, and you should be able to select it through a little globe icon at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on a tablet or on a cell phone, you can access it through the More menu by pressing the three little dots and selecting English or Spanish.
One in the chat for,
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es
if you
Liz Torres y estoy aquí con la
Spanish and don't
Cooperativa
speak English,
Comunitaria del
you
Lenguaje.
should be
Y el
deported.
día de hoy
Two in the
estoy
chat
aquí
where they
para
can
poder
stay.
proveer justicia lingüística y todos puedan hablar y escuchar en el idioma de su corazón. En un momento vamos a encender interpretación y entonces usted verá un icono de globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de su pantalla de Zoom y ahí puede presionarlo para seleccionar el idioma. O si está en una tableta o en un celular, puede seleccionarlo por medio del menú de más, que son los tres puntitos, y de ahí seleccionarlo. And we can go ahead and get interpretation started and let's get going.
Thank you so much, Liz. All right. So just so we're on the same page, let's quickly review the agenda for tonight's webinar. All right, so you should see the agenda before you. We're going to dive in with some preview training tips. We will go over your rights to remain silent, your right to refuse to consent to a home search, your right to record ICE, and we'll do a discussion of training tips, and then we'll end things off with a Q&A. Next slide, please. Tonight is a Train the Trainer, Know Your Rights. So before we get started, I want to offer just a couple tips for those who train others. First, ensure that people understand that the information you share during trainings should not be taken as legal advice. Let's take one more look at the very first slide that we posted. Whenever we do a Know Your Rights training, we like to include language like this, which I also stated when I first introduced myself a few minutes ago. Next slide. You may have noticed that I also said that I'm not a lawyer. So that also serves to ensure that people don't mistake the information that you provide as legal advice. But even if you are a lawyer, a KYR training is not the time or the place to offer legal advice, so you should avoid doing so. As a trainer, it is also important to use varied mediums to engage people's different learning styles. What do I mean by mediums? That can be writing, speaking, visual images, video, and/or acting out through role plays. So we're going to demonstrate some of those tools today. See if you can notice when we are testing out different training mediums. All right, so I'd like to turn it over now to my colleague, John, and he's going to walk us through your rights to remain silent. Take it away, John.
Thank you so much. I am Jonathan Blazer. I am a light-skinned white male. And let's begin by discussing the right to remain silent. Next slide, please. This right is sometimes referred to as the right against self-incrimination. And everyone who's watched an episode of Law and Order or any other crime show has heard of this right, but we're going to go tonight a little bit deeper about why this right exists, how it is currently under threat, and how considerations over when and how to exercise this right in encounters with ICE might differ depending upon your citizenship and your immigration status. Let's stay here on this slide and take a look at the language of the Fifth Amendment. It says that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. In other words, the government cannot force you to incriminate yourself. It's their job to prove their case against you. And here, the founders of the United States were really reacting strongly against very abusive British inquisitions, which often involved forced confessions. People may have heard of Miranda rights. Well, what that comes from is the case of Miranda v. Arizona in 1966, in which the Supreme Court ordered that every person be reminded of this right upon their arrest. However, this right also applies before any arrest occurs, such as when you're being questioned by ICE or any other law enforcement official. And if you want to exercise this right, you can simply remain silent. It's one way of exercising, but it can also help to make yourself clear and say, I wish to remain silent, or I want to exercise my right to remain silent. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about why this matters so much within the immigration system right now. Under our immigration laws, the federal government generally bears the burden of proving its case against a person it seeks to deport. So it must show that the person is not a US citizen and that they are deportable. For example, the government might try to show that the person entered the United States without authorization, or it might try to show that the person did have authorization, but they overstayed their temporary visa. When ICE questions an individual regarding their status or asks them to show me your papers, its ability to justify arresting and deporting them often relies on getting the person to admit facts or turn over documents that the government can then use against them. And in many cases, if an individual had just remained silent, ICE would not have a lawful basis to arrest them or to deport them. Next slide, please. If you choose to exercise your right to remain silent, law enforcement officials are not supposed to hold that against you. They're not supposed to say, this must be evidence that you have something to hide. But over the past year, numerous instances have come to light in which ICE and Border Patrol officials have essentially been bullying people they encounter into believing that they must answer their questions and that they're not free to go. And some agents have even been telling people that their refusal to answer their questions will itself provide grounds for continued interrogation and arrest. And this makes it so important right now, not only that everybody knows they have this right, but they're prepared to hold strong in the face of pressure if they wish to exercise it. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about some cases in which there might be risks in exercising this right. We've seen some instances in which ICE and Border Patrol appear to be racially profiling people and wrongfully arresting citizens and green card holders. We've argued in lawsuits that this conduct is unlawful, but we are really in an environment of recklessness right now. And in this environment, citizens and green card holders, people with lawful permanent residency, may need to balance the protection that comes by remaining silent against the protection that may come from clearly stating to ICE under these circumstances that I am a citizen or I am a green card holder, and presenting any documentation that helps prove this claim on the spot. And in some cases, this might help a person avoid wrongful arrest, or having said I'm a citizen or I have a green card might help show that ICE lacked probable cause to arrest them in the first place. And finally, I want to note that adult lawful permanent residents and other immigrants granted visas or other lawful statuses are required by law to carry their proof of status with them at all times. So they may remain silent, but they've got to carry those papers.
It's not actually hard. They send you a fucking
now,
green
no such
card.
Requirement applies
It's
to
like a driver's license.
undocumented immigrants.
It's not like they have to carry around a pile of fucking paperwork with them. My husband had a green card.
Undocumented immigrants may have a foreign passport or other documents issued by their home country, but in fact, showing ICE foreign issued documents is something that the government can use against you to prove that you are not a US citizen. And the last thing I want to say is no matter what choice you make about how to balance rights and risks, if you do decide to share information with ICE or show documentation to ICE, never ever lie or provide false documents.
True.
Next slide, please. Want to go over some ways in which silence is not always golden.
It's literally
There
a
are
fucking
some
driver's
key
license.
phrases that may in fact be important to say and say out loud as part of exercising your rights, even if you refuse to answer other questions or generally exercise your right to remain silent about everything else. And I would invite you at home to repeat these after me, and my colleagues Buell and Carlos, please help me out so that I have a witness here, and repeat after me. Am I free to go?
Am I free to go?
Free to go.
I wish to remain silent.
I
I
wish
wish to remain silent.
I do not consent to this search.
I do not
consent to this search.
They're winning, guys.
Am I under
They're
arrest?
winning.
Am I under arrest?
I want to speak to a lawyer.
I want
to speak
Am
to
I
a
free to
lawyer.
go?
Thank you.
It's
Next
actually
slide,
good
please.
advice, though.
Let's cover our second legal topic tonight.
I do not
which
consent.
is the right to refuse to consent or refuse
Am I
to
being
agree
detained?
to ICE entering our homes without a judicial warrant. Next slide, please. The Fourth Amendment is designed to protect us all against unreasonable search and seizure. And here's the specific language that you can look at. As you can see, it specifically mentions homes
Same
and
idea.
mentions that any
Same idea,
warrant
exactly.
authorizing searches or seizures should be supported by a warrant and a determination of probable cause. The origins of the Fourth Amendment are widely understood to include the English legal doctrine that every man's, well, let's say every woman's, everybody's home is his castle, but the English doctrine said every man's home is his castle.
Every day that's home
Next
is a
slide,
castle.
please. And the Fourth Amendment prohibits law enforcement agents from entering a home or any other private space to conduct a search or an arrest without the person's voluntary consent, unless they have a judicial warrant. That's why saying I do not consent or I do not agree is important if you wish to exercise your right not to have your home searched without a judicial warrant. There are limited exceptions to the judicial warrant requirement in cases of so-called exigent circumstances, think emergencies, but the exceptions are really quite limited. Next slide, please. I want to share a video with you. It was drawn from actual cases, and it portrays a situation that has heartbreakingly happened to far too many other people recently. Video, please.
One morning, while Alicia and Javi were getting their daughter Sophia ready for daycare, two agents from ICE knocked on their door.
Oh my god!
ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agents said they were police officers and were worried that Alicia's identity had been stolen. Javi cracked the door open to learn more.
Javi was an illegal alien.
This was the wrong decision. Do not open the door if authorities come to your home, no matter what they say. Without a warrant signed by a judge, they have no authority to enter. But beware, ICE may enter your home forcefully anyway. And if they do, you ask them to leave if they don't have the proper warrant. Be prepared. Do not panic. And remember, we have rights.
You're illegal.
ICE agents may search your home for documents or other evidence proving immigration status. They do not have the right to do this unless they have a warrant signed by a judge that lets them inside and specifically gives them permission to search. ICE usually will not have a warrant, but they may lie and say they do, or show you something else that looks official. Tell ICE, I do not agree with you being in my home. Please leave. If the agents start to search, tell them, I do not agree to your search. These words can be legally powerful, and saying them might help in immigration proceedings, even if the agents don't listen. You have the right to ask ICE agents for their ID, their contact information, and their warrant, and to take pictures of any documents they show you. They probably won't give these documents to you. Do not answer any questions and do not share a loved one's whereabouts or show them any documents, even if they ask, except for a valid U.S. passport or green card. This information can hurt you in immigration proceedings.
All right.
They've got fucking cartoon training videos.
So that video covered some similar territory as we covered in our slides and in some of the information I shared, but it's a different format and medium. And as a trainer, you want to give people different opportunities to consume and receive information. And also, it never hurts to repeat things. It sometimes, well, people say it takes 3 times of hearing something before you remember it. It takes me more like 4 or 5. So repeating is not bad as a trainer. The video is one of several videos on our website. If you just search for We Have Rights, there's a video series produced through a partnership between ACLU and Brooklyn Legal Defenders. If you want to watch the rest of that video or other similar videos or use those for your trainings, we invite you to do that. One thing I want to say about that video from a training perspective is it kind of conveys a bit about how terrifying the threat of immigration enforcement is. I mean, it's upsetting to watch, even in animated form. And as a trainer, it's important to keep in mind how an audience might react to certain images and stories. The reaction and how you approach the training might differ depending upon whether the audience is directly impacted people who may have experienced something like this or who may be extremely worried about this happening to them in their homes at any moment, or whether it is allies and supporters of immigrants' rights who care a lot about this issue, but who are themselves worried about being deported. And that kind of describes me and how the way I approach it. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk a little bit about the difference between judicial warrants and administrative warrants. I mentioned before that ICE may not legally enter your home without your voluntary consent unless it has a judicial warrant. But it also means that if they do have a judicial warrant, they can legally enter your home, even if you don't consent. So it's important to be able to tell the difference between these 2 types of documents. Let's take a look. Notice the differences between the 2 documents. The judicial warrant is on the left, the administrative warrant is on the right. The key difference here really is who issued the document at the top and who signed the document at the bottom. You'll see for a judicial warrant, it is issued by a court and it is signed by a judge or a magistrate. And for an administrative immigration warrant, which does not satisfy the 4th Amendment warrant requirement, it is issued by an agency, in this case ICE, and it is signed by an immigration officer, not a judge. Next slide, please. There's been a lot of discussion about this issue in the news recently because earlier this year, a whistleblower revealed that ICE had issued a secret memo in 2025 claiming to legally authorize agents to enter a home forcibly without obtaining a judicial warrant if they have something called the Form 1205, I-205, which is an administrative order of removal. It's another variation of a different type of administrative warrant. And DHS went to great lengths to keep this memo a secret. It was never distributed in writing to people being trained. And the memo flatly contradicted decades of written DHS guidance saying entering a home to arrest a person without a warrant is typically a violation of the Fourth Amendment, regardless of whether the officer has probable cause to arrest the suspect. And they applied this memo where people, again, had a order of removal issued against them. But man, 1.6 million people in the United States have orders of removal issued against them. These orders are challengeable in court, and in many cases, people are not notified about the orders, have no idea that such an order has been issued against them. So it is a big deal to say that these orders can simply substitute for a judicial warrant and authorize forcible home entry. Next slide. And therefore, the ACLU filed a lawsuit recently seeking to invalidate the secret memo. And for anybody who was watching the hearings or following the news about the confirmation of the now new DHS Secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen, he actually faced questioning about this. And he said during his confirmation hearing that he believes that agents do need to obtain a judicial warrant before forcibly entering a home.
Oh, great.
And the secret memo is in direct conflict with his positions. So that raises the possibility
Trump
that
administration are a
DHS
bunch
might
of fucking
rescind the
Democrats,
memo
guys.
itself.
They're Democrats.
It hasn't happened yet, as far as anybody knows. Next slide. This photograph at the top shows Tiana Gibson Brown in the doorway. She is a U.S. citizen and a pediatric intensive care nurse who's one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, and it shows federal agents forcing their way into her home without a warrant.
Is her husband
regarding the
illegal?
lawsuit and the current secretary's position, even if the secret memo gets nullified by the courts or by DHS, agents do not need a judicial warrant to enter a home if they obtain a person's consent or permission to enter. And this is why the bottom line of this Know Your Rights training remains the same. And that bottom line is, if you're trying to exercise your rights and you don't wish for ICE to enter, if they visit your home, don't open the door. Ask them if they have a judicial warrant. If so, ask them to slip it under the door in the mail slot and clearly state, I do not consent or I do not agree to them entering your home or searching your home. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague Buell to talk about our next topic.
Hi, everyone. My name's Bill, and I'm a legal fellow with ACLU National Speech Privacy Technology Project, where I get to focus on supporting your First Amendment rights. And I'm going to talk about the right to record ICE. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So the right to record ICE and other law enforcement officials is one of the most crucial tools that we have available to hold the government accountable. And recording serves a lot of purposes. It helps get valuable information to loved ones who are detained. It can provide an independent record of immigration and law enforcement operations, so that way we can hold officials accountable for any abuses. And so we're going to dive deeper into the right to record ICE. And I just want to let people know I'm going to use ICE for shorthand, but everything I talk about applies to all immigration and law enforcement officers. So a lot of people are seeing Customs and Border Patrol in their community, as well as other federal agents. So when I say ICE, I mean all law enforcement and immigration officials. So let's talk more about the right to record ICE. Next slide, please. So generally, you have the right to photograph or film anything plainly visible in public, and that includes ICE and law enforcement, so long as you're not interfering or violating another valid law. So another way you could think about it and explain it to people in your training is that recording ICE when they're in public view is not a crime, and you cannot be retaliated against or lawfully arrested for that alone. Next slide, please. So the right to record is rooted in the First Amendment, and this is a widely established right. Since this is a training for trainers and you all are a bit more advanced, I'm going to go into the background a little bit more than I typically do about why exactly the First Amendment protects the right to record ICE. So the First Amendment protects freedom of speech and expression, but if you look at the text of the First Amendment, it doesn't say all citizens have the right to record ICE. So where does that right come from? Courts have viewed recording law enforcement in public as the First Amendment protected activity for a few different reasons. Some courts look at recording as a way of gathering information about the government, which is also part of the speech creation process. So you can also think of recording as part of creating speech, creating expression. So the idea is that if a book is protected, then writing the book also has to be protected. Or if a video is protected, then filming the video also has to be protected. So it's necessary to actually protect the right to record the police in order for those recordings to also be protected as we disseminate them. So regardless of how you get there,
That actually makes
every
sense.
appellate court that has taken up this issue has agreed that the right to document law enforcement officers performing their duties in public is protected by the First Amendment. And that means that the government cannot retaliate against someone for recording ICE or the police, and they cannot arrest you for recording them. Okay, next slide, please. So even though courts agree that we have a First Amendment right to record ICE, unfortunately, as we've seen, the Trump administration and other government officials have characterized recording ICE as a form of violence, claimed that it might constitute interference or obstruction. And on the ground, likewise, we're seeing federal and state agents retaliate against people for recording them. We're seeing them, in some instances, point guns at people who are filming them, spraying pepper spray and other chemical irritants at people who are filming, arresting bystanders that are documenting them, and much more. So even though you do have a right to record ICE in public, that doesn't mean doing it is risk-free. And that's something that's important to communicate to people as you're telling them about their rights, that even though this is your legal right, there are still risks. And importantly, ways to minimize those risks. So let's talk about that. Next slide, please. Reducing our risks when we're recording ICE. So since some agents might react harshly to those who are recording them by threatening them, making arrests, and your physical safety and the safety of those around you, and the safety of the person who's being targeted or detained are a top priority. So we have to think about how we can reduce our risks while we are observing, gathering information, and recording ICE. So what I want to experiment with right now, actually, tonight with all of you, is to discuss as a group in the chat. There's many thousands of people here, so it's a little different than maybe when you're running a training and there's a much smaller group and you're able to have a discussion. But just to try it out, we're going to open up the chat. And I want to hear from all of you because I'm sure there are so many experts here tonight that might be out there in the streets recording ICE, might already be talking to people about best practices. So the chat is open and I want you to just drop into the chat best practices for reducing risks when you are observing and recording ICE. I'm sure you all have lots of great ideas. So let's see. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of keeping a safe distance. Yes, that is intuitively the biggest one. That's very important, keeping a safe distance. I saw somebody else say, narrate what you're doing. Absolutely. If you're complying, you want to narrate that you're complying. You want to let them know. And that will also be on the recording that you're making, right? I'm seeing people say I'm backing away.
How many people are on the call?
Tell you to back away, have a buddy, never touch the agents, no physical contact. Yes, these are all really great ideas. So let's actually go to the next slide where we have a summary of some of the best practices that we like to share in our trainings. And many of you have already covered these in the chat. So we have number 1, maintaining distance. And then also avoiding sudden movements and remaining calm, filming openly and keeping your hands visible, and following instructions. And another important thing that comes up in places where people tend to be filming from their cars is to remember not to record while you're driving. But of course, if there is somebody in the passenger seat that can film, or maybe if you have a dash cam so you don't have to hold your phone while you're also driving. So these are some best practices, but again, we can't eliminate all risks. These are just things that we can control to try to prioritize our safety and do what we can. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're going to do another we're going to do a role play. And I'm going to bring Carlos and John back.
I was hoping for a role
to
play.
show us different ways of exercising the right to record, keeping again those best practices and risks in mind that we talked about before. And as we're going to show you 2 different scenarios, 2 different ways of interacting with ICE as you record them. And I want you to pay attention to what you see and try to note the differences. And this role play is adapted from the Midnight Special Legal Collective. So shout out to them. And John is going to be playing an ICE officer. Hi, John. And Carlos is going to be an observer documenting an arrest and trying to record what's happening behind the ICE officer.
W role play.
Okay, John and Carlos, are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
All right. And action.
Hey, are you all right? Don't forget, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything.
Back up.
Officer, I have a First Amendment right to film ICE.
Back away.
I have a right to document ICE. Hey, that's my phone. I was recording with that.
Not anymore, you're not.
And scene. Okay. Thank you, John and Carlos. Now we're going to try it one more time, but this time Carlos is going to take a different approach. So see what you can notice in the way that Carlos behaves this time. Are you ready?
Take 2.
Ready.
Ready.
Okay, action.
Hey, are you all right? Don't forget, you have the right to remain silent.
Back away.
Okay, officer.
Back further away.
Okay, officer,
Back
so I'm backing away. Okay.
I didn't steal his phone that time.
Scene. Okay, thank you so much, Carlos and John. And so when we do these kinds of trainings and role plays, just pulling the curtain back a little bit, if we're in a smaller group, it's usually, at this time, we would ask the participants, all of you, to share what you noticed and to gather insights together and discuss what were the differences that you noticed. Tonight, due to time and the fact that this is a very, very big gathering on Zoom, we're not going to do it that way, but just want to flag that. If you're in a smaller group, it's best to be able to debrief collectively and bring the lessons out of the group. But instead, I'm going to share my own takeaways from what I saw. So in both scenarios, Carlos was exercising his right to record ICE. And from a legal standpoint, the Constitution protects him from arrest or prosecution for recording in both cases. But you can also notice there were some key differences in how he handled the officer's aggression. So in the first scenario, he used his rights to argue with the officer. And even though the First Amendment protects that speech, arguing with an officer can escalate a situation, and it could have put him and others in physical danger. And you actually don't have to state your rights in order for them to be in play. You don't have to say, I have a First Amendment right to do this. The First Amendment is going to protect you whether you say that or not. And in the second scenario, he simply exercised his rights while also doing his best to de-escalate the situation. So he achieved the result he was aiming for, which ultimately was recording the officer's activities while also reducing his risk and the risk to others around him and the risk to the person that was being detained. So again, it's impossible to eliminate all risk, and that's something that's very important to mention in your trainings and to let people know that you're not saying if you do these things, then you'll be okay. But these are some important ways that we can reduce our risks, and it's important to try to de-escalate whenever we can in order to prioritize our safety. So also just to close out the role play, some additional tips. If you are running the role play yourself as a trainer, you'll want to practice it a few times with your co-trainer. I got to watch Carlos and John practice it many times, and it gets much better the more you practice it. So make sure that you prepare that. And then also, if you're in a smaller in-person training, it can also be great to have people actually split into groups afterwards and practice it themselves, specifically trying to practice the second version that is more of a de-escalatory approach to filming ICE. So that's another thing that you could do if you are running this training yourself. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there are additional resources. Unfortunately, we can't cover everything tonight, but we do encourage you to visit ACLU's website for additional Know Your Rights information. We have tons of materials there for everything from immigrant rights to know your rights when you're interacting with the police and law enforcement, and also your rights to document ICE. So there are some really helpful handouts on our website. Definitely check those out. And there is also additional information available from many other organizations. You can check out the National Immigration Law Center, the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, and many others. I think we're going to drop some of those in the chat so you can make sure you follow up and keep studying up. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Carlos.
Thank you, Buell. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground today on three key rights, John and Buell. So I'd like to take a step back now and ask for your views about best practices for training. So, John, earlier we stressed the importance of making sure that you are not providing legal advice during Know Your Rights trainings. Can you say a bit more about why this is so important?
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. I think we can take this slide down, maybe, or you could leave it up. First, for those of you who are not lawyers, if you provide legal advice or violating the law, you are at risk from being criminally charged for unauthorized practice of law if you're providing legal advice and you're not a lawyer. So definitely don't do that. But even for lawyers, there are important reasons to avoid providing legal advice during Know Your Rights trainings. In a big group setting, it's not going to be possible to hear about an individual's own particular circumstances, whether they might fall into an exception, what their own goals are. And you can't hold that conversation confidentially in a way that protects their privacy or preserves attorney-client privilege. So even if you're a lawyer, it's just not the right place to hold a legal consultation.
Thanks, John. Buell, I have one for you. What are some of the tools that you've used during trainings to try to engage people's different learning styles?
Yeah, great question. Well, we tried to demonstrate several of them tonight during this training. So maybe you all can think back to things that you saw and you noticed that we did throughout the night. So some basics, first of all, we used slides, which helps people who like to see things in writing. Everyone has different learning styles, many different abilities. And so it's important to try to switch up the different ways that you're conveying the information. So we used slides, and then we also explained things verbally, which helps auditory learners. We showed a video, and that helps visual learners. And also by telling a story of what happened to a specific family, it also helps engage people's hearts and not just their minds, right? And we're talking about some pretty heavy and serious stuff, so it can be good to really ground in what's happening out there and why are we in this work together? And John also asked people to say 5 key phrases out loud. So that also helps people who learn by speaking. It can help just really drill something down into your mind if you're actually saying it out loud with the trainer. So try to prompt people to repeat after you when there's something really important. We also used a role play to offer another type of visual demonstration, another form of storytelling, a way to sort of bring things to life. And showing something rather than describing it can really help a lot of people. And hopefully, if you have time in your smaller group settings, people can also act out the role play themselves, and that will take us an even deeper layer of internalizing what you're learning and actually practicing it, not just in your head, in your heart, but also in your hands, right? And if your training is small enough, again, the best way to make content stick is to really engage your audience by asking questions and eliciting their answers. I feel like in some ways we're not showing you the best way tonight just because we are on Zoom with a very, very big group. But if you're with a smaller group, you want to ask as many questions as you can and have people share their own wisdom and share their own insights and come to the conclusions themselves. And that's going to be the best way to get the information to really stick with people. And then other people like to have something they can touch, something they can take home. And so we have the Know Your Rights information that we shared tonight. And you can also get Know Your Rights cards and handouts that people can read during the training that they can take home with them. And so if you're interested in receiving a shipment with a batch of Know Your Rights cards, let us know, and there'll be a survey that you can fill out that we'll send you after the training if you want some of those small pamphlets to take home and to distribute at your own trainings as well. And finally, no matter how much you vary the mediums and training tools you use, the training is not going to be effective for people with limited English proficiency or people with disabilities unless you provide the trainings in other languages or use interpreters, such as tonight you can see we have ASL and a Spanish interpreter that we have, and so that's the best practice as well. And another feature we regularly use is closed captioning. So if you click on the CC button on the bottom of your screen right now, you'll be able to see each word typed out as we're speaking. And Zoom can actually offer automated captions. So you can assign someone to type closed captions out live on your call, or you can use this feature on Zoom. Tonight, we have a captioner typing information live as we speak. So thank you to our captioners, interpreters, and ASL interpreter and Spanish interpreter.
All right.
I'll pass back to you. I said a lot.
All right, so, we always try to give people the opportunity to post questions as one more way to engage them. And we usually end our Know Your Rights trainings with a question and answer session. In fact, we are going to do that soon. But first, John, do you have any tips for trainers on how to handle Q&A?
Thanks, Carlos. It's John. Yeah, well, thinking back to what I said about not providing legal advice, Q&A, questions and answer sessions, are often the trickiest part where this comes up, because some people understandably use it as an opportunity to ask for legal advice about their own situation. And it can be tempting to want to answer those questions. You want to help people. You want people to feel as though they got what they were seeking out of the training. But as noted, it's very important to remind people that you can't provide individual legal advice in this setting. It's also a little bit nerve-wracking to do Q&A because you can prepare the content for a presentation, but you don't know what people are going to be asking you. And
they always say the quiet part out loud in Q&A.
Something that you,
so now they're saying don't do Q&A.
Not an expert on, or that you haven't remembered the information on.
The Q&A is the worst part for them.
What I'd say about that is, first of all, we've shared some Know Your Rights resources with you, and reading those ahead of time and having them with you can help, because you'd be surprised about how many questions or common questions that get repeated again and are covered by those materials. And if you have those materials with you, you can use that as a guide. And what I'd say is, don't be afraid to consult those materials during the presentation. You can even model with the group. For example, we're going to send anyone interested the Know Your Rights cards where it says the answer to that on the card so that they know where to find the information themselves and are empowered to do the same for themselves. And then finally, the last thing I'll say about questions and answers is how important it is to say, I don't know, when you don't know the answer to a question. It can be a little bit embarrassing to say I don't know, but you have to in order to avoid providing incorrect information that could harm people. And just one quick kind of lovely story. I was joined a Congress member 2 weekends ago in a town hall that she was holding with her constituents. And my role was to offer Know Your Rights training. And she asked me such a great question. Unfortunately, I had no idea what the answer was. There's thousands of people, it was a Facebook Live thing. So I said, I don't know. A little nervous because when a member of Congress asks me a question, I want to be knowledgeable enough to answer it. But she actually said how much she appreciated me saying I don't know, and that it made all the other information I provided even more credible when I admit, that I'm not an expert on something. So don't be afraid to say I don't know. It's definitely a best practice for trainers.
That's good advice in general, by the way. They're not wrong about everything. That was actually really good advice.
Okay. Now that we've got a few minutes to answer any questions that you may have about what we've covered, now is the time to ask. So we're going to dive into our Q&A. And just a reminder, if you're joining us by Zoom on your computer or on your phone, you can submit your questions by using the Q&A box found in the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you've joined us by phone, we won't be able to take your questions during this event, but we do encourage you to email us. And please email us at info@peoplepower.org, and we'll get back to you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into some of your questions. I see we have a lot here. First one is here for John. It looks like it's a two-parter here. So we have a person that asks, what if I have an accent? Is it better to say out loud that you wish to remain silent? Will an accent be considered grounds to detain someone? And
it should be.
Relatedly, is giving out a KYR card a form of giving legal advice?
Well, actually, here we go. To the first question about if I have an accent, is it better to say out loud that you wish to remain silent, or to remain silent? Will the accent be considered grounds to detain somebody? I don't actually know the answer to that question. It's a great question. I think some of my colleagues who have filed litigation against ICE's practices probably have a take on how that's actually playing out and what the legal defenses are. So I'm going to skip that one because I don't have the expertise on it. But I do know the answer to whether or not giving out KYR cards and giving advice to others about their rights is legal advice. It's not. Sharing information about people's rights and even sharing information about the law and what the law says is not giving legal advice, because you're not telling an individual what they should do in their own situation and how to apply it to their specific situation. So you're on very safe grounds giving out KYR material and doing Know Your Rights presentations that talk about people's rights and the laws.
Gotcha.
I just want to also shout out John for saying that he doesn't know the answer to a question. Very important as a trainer.
Stunning and brave, John. Stunning and brave.
Hear, hear. Also on the matter
Stunning
of giving legal advice, what kind of advice is this if not legal? So, John, about the presentation that we're doing today, they want to know, is this a form, why wouldn't this be a form of legal advice? And how should we discuss this type of training if it is not?
That's a good question. When we say don't provide legal advice, what we mean is don't tell an individual person what the best thing is to do in their own situation, because laws have exceptions, and also people have different risk tolerances. They have different goals. Some people are risk adverse, and some people are less risk adverse, and you don't providing general information about the laws, most definitely teaching about the law,
which I'm allowed to have.
and you can confidently say that I'm doing a presentation, and we are doing a presentation tonight about people's rights and about constitutional law. but it's not individual legal advice. And as we discussed in the training, even when you get to something like the right to remain silent, whether or not to exercise that right in any one situation or circumstance may depend upon your individual situation. We talked about green card holders and citizens who face the possibility of wrongful arrest, having to balance exercising that rights versus the risks of not sharing information about their status to avoid the arrest. And we just don't know how it might apply to any one person. And that's why we don't provide legal advice to that individual in a training.
Makes sense. Okay, Buell, we have a couple here for you. So someone writes, how close to their activities can I get before they detain me? So presumably when you're recording someone. And this is kind of Florida specific, but doesn't Florida have a law against recording? And do you have to be a certain distance away when you do so when you're recording?
Great questions. So there is no bright line legally for how far away you need to be while you record. The issue is that you can't be interfering or obstructing their operation, but there isn't a clear line on a distance in which you are not interfering or obstructing. So a good rule of thumb could be to be enough steps away from the officer that the officer would have to affirmatively walk towards you. They would have to actually come towards you to be in physical contact with you. And also you want to make sure you aren't blocking anyone from entering or exiting the area. And all of this is relatedly with the question about Florida. I actually don't know the answer to the question about Florida, so I'm not going to answer specific to that. But there are some states that have specific laws that officers could invoke to tell you to back up a certain distance. And so for those of you that live in states with those laws, you can assess for yourself what is reasonable and then also take cues from the officer and your local laws into account.
Gotcha. We do have a question about recording in public, but specifically, Buell, what constitutes as, or what is defined as public or public property? Can you clarify that for folks, please?
Yeah, so public property is property that is not private. So private property owners can set their own rules for recording photography on their private property. But if you're on a public street, you're on a public sidewalk, if you're in an area that's available to the public and you can see what's happening in public view, then that is within the public view. Hopefully that helps.
Gotcha. John, this one's for you. Will I be able to share this webinar more publicly once it's available? Someone writes that they're doing a Fourth Amendment workplace safety canvassing training with a group in their town, and it would be great to recommend this to those folks who are canvassing and for their employees.
Please do. We will share a link to the recorded webinar with you in follow-up, and we'd love you to help us promote this to other people you think would benefit from this information. So thank you.
Yep. Buell, on the subject of private property, since you mentioned it, a writer asks, can you film ICE if they come into your home? And can you record in your home when ICE is actually entered without a warrant?
Yes, that's a great question. So remember how I said private property owners can set their own rules about photography and recording?
Yeah,
that means that if they're in your home and they're
case.
in your property, then you get to decide whether or not you record them. And in that case, you can record them.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple more minutes for some more questions. We have a lot, so I'm going to try to get through these. John, this one's for you. Someone writes, if they're a green card holder, what documents do they need to carry? And is it suitable just to carry photocopies of those documents?
Yeah, so what I've been told by immigration lawyers on this topic is that the safest thing to do is to carry your actual green card. That is your permanent resident card, not a copy. Of course, you want to keep copies of it, probably photocopies, digital copies somewhere in case you lose your green card or you have a robbery or something like that. But it's better to carry the actual document itself rather than a copy. Safer.
Thanks, John. Buell, one for you here. So someone writes about recording while their phone is actually locked. They want to see if that's a good idea, because then that way they can't delete what you're recording. So you leave your phone locked, but it's still recording, presumably audio, perhaps video of what's happening in the environment.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to unpack that a little bit more. So the government is not allowed to delete your recordings ever. So under the law, that's not something an ICE officer can do, even if your phone is unlocked, even if they take it from you, they are not allowed to look through it without your consent. And so that's important to remember. If you're not under arrest and they don't have a warrant, they cannot take your phone. And even if you are under arrest and they take your phone, they still need a warrant in order to be able to look through it. And even then, under no circumstances is the government allowed to delete what's on your phone, to delete recordings. So that's important for us to remember.
All right. Well, thank you, Buell and John. That is actually all the time that we have for Q&A. So we're going to dive into the last piece of our presentation here so that we can all get out on time. So, want to share some important next steps and call to action. So if folks want to put that slide on the screen there, the next step slide, and we'll dive right in. So one, we want to share this with others, the information that you learned today about the right to remain silent, the right to refuse to consent to searches of your home, and also the right to record ICE. You don't necessarily need to lead a formal training in order to share. It's also really important and sometimes even more powerful to share by talking to, emailing, messaging your friends, your family, or your coworkers. So we're going to be sending you a recording of this training via email, which you can share with others. We will also be offering free ACLU KYR cards, those are Know Your Rights cards, to you so that you can refer to them and pass them out to others. We're also going to share a survey with you. Appreciate it if you can fill it out and tell us an address on that form that we can ship those cards to as well. We're offering to send you about 10 cards, and those cards are going to be available in English and Spanish. If you do need a larger quantity for your training or need materials right away, No Kings, the No Kings events has created a streamlined wallet-sized card in 8 different languages, and that link is currently in the chat. Next, we encourage everybody to join a local rapid response network. Some of these are great. Some of these are immigration specific, and some of them unite a local community in preparing for and to respond for a range of threats. These can be great spaces to share information with others, train others, and receive training from others. You might be able to find yours by a simple web browser search of your locality's name and in quotes, rapid response network. If not, check with a local immigrant serving organization and they can point you in the right direction. And lastly, please connect with your neighbors and see if there's already a neighborhood group that you can join. If not, start one. Create a phone list and start a signal group. Start small if needed, and share the information you've learned today with this neighborhood group. All right, folks. So thank you very much for your engagement this evening. It was wonderful to have you all here, and we encourage everybody to go out there, make a difference, and have a great night.
All right. So that is the end of our second spy stream, which was an ACLU Know Your Rights Train the Trainers training. So I really want to emphasize this. What we just watched was a training for trainers. What we just watched was a training for people who are going out and doing the Know Your Rights training for other people. So it's like what the training we just watched was like a level up from even what we normally watch. And there were thousands of fucking people on that call. Guys, do you remember when Cam Higbee exposed the signal groups? Does anyone remember this? Now, of course, it was probably about 6 months at least after I started talking about the signal groups. We knew about the signal groups way before Cam Higbee's big expose, but that was when many people on the right became aware that the signal groups were a thing. Well, what happened with that? What happened with that? Cam Higbee stopped doing research into it. He started working with that 0 Hour idiot who just lies and is a massive fucking propagandist. Like, the whole fucking thing went off the rails completely after the big expose of the signal groups. Oh my God. So the whole thing went off the rails. Cam Higby's research went to shit. And then Cam Higby just quit and followed the next fucking news story to the next thing so he could follow the news cycle so he could continue to stay relevant and make money. Oh, and then he turned into a Zionist propagandist who just spends time lying about Nick Fuentes now. And it's like, the point I want to make is the big expose about the signal groups that then went to shit as soon as the news cycle changed and he didn't want to do it anymore. Imagine my shock. The big expose about the signal groups literally led to nothing. They're still doing the signal groups. They're still organizing in exactly the same way. They're only getting stronger. They're only continuing to build momentum. It's only going to get worse. May 1st is going to be a big fuck off shit show. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a giant fuck off shit show. And the right, of course, will say, they're stupid, they're lazy, this isn't real, this is AI, they're all paid protesters, they're all narcissists, they're all funded by Soros, they're all funded by China, and they'll make every fucking excuse in the book for why they don't have to do anything, and then the left will just keep going, and it's about to be summer, and guess what? College graduations are coming up. Yeah, too bad no Kino Casino tonight. Real. I agree. I'm going to watch on Wednesday, though. I'm committed to watching the casino on Wednesday. Great, Otis. Red May is almost here. Yep. Anyway, you guys want to go watch a movie? Should we go retire to the supporter Discord to watch The Wall? Guys, if you got gifted one of the 139 channel memberships that got given out today, and by the way, can we give a W to everyone in the chat who gifted channel memberships today? 139 new channel members today. How fucking awesome is that? If you got gifted one of those new channel memberships, what you need to do is go to the post tab on my YouTube homepage, and you will find the link at the very top to join the supporter Discord. This is not the same as the Left Wing Studies Discord. This is a completely different Discord. If you join for the first time, you need to chat into the verification channel and let me know your screen name and where you came from. And we will let you into the Discord. And let me see. I'm just going to pull it up right now. Everyone who has so far requested verification has been verified. So if you haven't requested verification yet and you want to come watch The Wall with us, like literally right now, please feel free to do that. We do movie nights on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. and on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Mac B hosts movie nights on Monday. He does a great job. Lots of cult classic movies that he watches. He watches some of the coolest shit. So I want to invite everyone to join him in the Discord, in the VC, to watch The Wall. And it's 420 still, so you can, do whatever you want with that information. I will be back tomorrow, and we will continue the descent into the dystopian nightmare that is our world. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you to everyone who supported the stream by gifting out a channel membership or sending in a super chat. I really do appreciate you guys. I can't do this without you. And I will see you guys on the other side. Take care. We'll see you.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.